And here we go. Welcome everybody. It is Wednesday, so we're blasting into week 2 of the Business of Wine course. And so before I get into my stuff, any questions, concern, problems, issues? No. Hey, we're starting to get this down. 7 years ago, when I first started this course, it was a nightmare. We had we didn't have Zoom. The university didn't have an online webinar thing. I had to set these up and record them. Half the time, the programs would crash. We'd get no recording of it. So we've come a long way. So luckily, I don't experience many problems anymore. Okie doke. So we'll just get right into it then. Let me share the screen. And there we are in a little box. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue. I'm going to help clarify a little bit more what your final project is. And actually, let me get a prop. I'll be right back. Alrighty, it's a bottle of wine. I've got home, I went into a store today and I picked up some groceries. I'm actually doing a dinner tonight with a wine and food travel writer and some friends, and going through a whole demonstration of why we should abandon wine and food pairing, and that how everything that you've been taught is absolutely a lie. And so while I'm in the store picking up asparagus and delicate fish, what I'm going to do is poach some delicate fish in Riesling with a little lemon and salt, and it rocks with a big ass red wine. And you eat the dish, the wine tastes great. You taste the wine and you go back and it's supposed to kill the little fish, and it's white so it doesn't go with red. And the fish gets absolutely much more succulent and delicious. And people don't even try these things because we've been told these lies about wine and food pairing. And so we don't even experiment for the most part, or we think we're experimenting, but we really aren't. The other thing we'll do is I've got a beautiful New York strip, USDA choice Angus beef. We'll cook that rare. I'll have everybody try the big ass red wine, try the fat, and try the wine again. Now the fat's supposed to make the wine taste smoother, and it doesn't. Actually, it makes it taste more bitter.
That's what I think. That's my thought on it.
Yeah. And then you're like embarrassed to bring it up, right? Like, what's wrong with me? You know?
What was the white fish?
The white fish is going to be petrale sole with a shrimp mousse.
With a what mousse?
A shrimp.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Because that's a really rich. That right there is rich. All of that together is rich. It's
delicate. I mean, it's about as delicate a dish as you're ever going to find.
But it's a rich dish.
Well, see, but rich is a metaphor. Is the dish rich? Does it have a lot of money?
Oh, right. Okay. All right.
Which is heavier, a Cabernet or a Moscato?
I personally think a Moscato is.
Yeah, and it actually weighs more, or White Zinfandel, or a low alcohol residual sugar Riesling. And so what we do is our brain immediately jumps to these metaphors, like it's rich, oh, it's this. And we'll do just the petrale sole on its own. Which you would agree that's a delicate fish. It's not a rich fish, right?
That's a delicate fish, correct.
And it'll be poached in the Riesling. And then the mousse, the mousseline, is going to be cooked in a tureen. And then I'll make a really light kind of beurre blanc sauce out of the liquid with cream and a little bit of
Yeah,
butter.
so you're getting the cream and the butter and stuff, and so that's where you're gonna have the fat and the
Right, but you also just shared fat makes it more bitter.
Interesting. Yeah. Well.
So here's your homework tonight, Tina and Vito and Chad. A little strong red wine, Cabernet Merlot, red wine blend. Take a sip, a little salt and lemon on your hand, just a little bit. Lick it. You're not biting the lemon, just a little bit. Try it again, smooth as silk.
And that will bring out the fruits, right? That'll make it more fruity.
Yes. And there's science behind that. And what happens, it's called sensory adaptation. Salt suppresses bitterness, all sorts of things. And if you go to Tuscany and get a big beefsteak, the beefsteak itself actually, in the umami taste in the protein and in a good aged steak, actually has the same effect as the salt, the same effect as sweetness. It's like brush teeth, drink orange juice. And it makes the wine more bitter. It's the salt you put on the steak, and it's the acidity that comes in the form in France of Béarnaise sauce, of wine reductions, of a la Bordelaise is a reduction where you add a squeeze of lemon juice at the last minute and so on. It has nothing to do with any of this crap that we've created. There's a really simple way to do wine and food pairing so that you can say, oh, you love Moscato? We've got a great one. Let me share that with you. Oh, well, I wanted a steak. Fabulous. I mean, do you want a red wine? Do you want a wine you hate? That's fine. I can do that too. But this is critical thinking at the highest level, okay? And I've been doing, and you've heard the word umami, right? Mm-hmm. I introduced that word into our language.
Oh, you did? Oh.
30 years ago. I am the Swami of umami.
Oh.
And most people who teach about umami actually are teaching the wrong things. So we won't get into that now. That'll come at the end of the course. But here's what I want you to start thinking. All right, so I go into the store to get some of my food things, and they've got a sale going on. I'm going to post this on the discussion forum. All Northwest wines, 30% off. Buy 6 bottles, get an additional 10% off. Can the store make money doing that? Using standard markup, standard business practices for pricing their wine? No, they're losing money. If they're losing money, are they making it up somewhere? Mm-hmm. But consider they've got and they'll do this sale for every wine in the store a couple times a year, 30% off every single wine in the store, plus an additional 10% off if you buy 6 bottles or more. That's well below cost. It's illegal in some states actually to do that, but not in California or Oregon in most states. So this is what I want you to think about when you're going into stores and doing your homework and observing and going, wait a minute, the math doesn't make sense. And then trying to employ your critical thinking and a deductive process to think, well, who's paying for this?
So Tim?
Yeah.
So can you hear me first off? Sorry.
Yeah, and I can see you. Hey, Vito, how are you?
Good. We joined late, so we've been trying to catch up. So anyway, we were just in Aldi's. I'm not sure if they're across the country, but
yep, they're growing actually. They're.
So it was funny. So we did your homework assignment. So my wife and I are looking at, and there's these bottles of wine. They're like $5, right? So I'm doing your homework assignment, and I noticed it's very difficult to keep a $25 bottle of red wine. You tweak anything, and it jumps up in price. So it's actually a challenge to keep it that low. And I'm going, how, so if they're losing money, I guess the next question to you, maybe I missed this, is what's the game? What's going on? I mean, everyone's in it for making money. So what, I'm waiting for the shoe to drop. Can you tell us why they're doing it or what the game is here?
Yeah, and make this part, and the reason I'm introducing this now, we're going to go through this in much more detail later in the course, but I want you to start, that's Perfect. Next time, take a picture with your phone. And have you been able to join the Facebook group yet?
I did, yeah. And by the way, I didn't take a picture, but this was a California wine.
No, I understand. But when you do that, take a picture, post it, and then pose the question.
Okay.
What's up? How do they do this?
Okay.
If you want the simplest thing to do with your wine biz sim cost of goods calculator to make a profit, make a $100 bottle of Cabernet. Even spend 10 grand for the fruit. It's easy to make money.
Yeah.
How do you make $2 Chuck? How do you make a $5 California Cabernet that's going to go in an Aldi and make money? And in Aldi's case, they're making money. In the case that I'm giving in the store, they're losing money, but they're spending it for marketing dollars.
So I was just thinking to myself, they bought these grapes for what? Like for free? If it's $5 at the store and Aldi's is making money, I'm like, and you had to make the wine and pay people, I'm like, the grapes must have been worth nothing.
Sometimes grapes are free. That's actually, you've been told a story of how white Zinfandel was invented. Anybody know the story?
It was an accident.
It was an accident.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And how do you make white Zinfandel by accident?
Well, isn't that what Mr. Trinchero isn't that the story that he tells? Is that?
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. So
okay.
They tell you a story. Is it the truth? Ah.
Well, he made a pretty penny with that story.
Yeah, and other people made more pretty pennies, including a company that I worked for, because you don't know the story behind Beringer White Zinfandel.
Okay.
And this is so what happens is we are taught about the product, and what we're taught about the product is usually some combination of BS and marketing messages that have nothing to do with reality or the truth. So the Trinchero story is they had some Zinfandel and the fermentation got stuck. So a stuck fermentation is where you're fermenting it and the yeast stopped working. So the wine might have gotten too cold, there might have not been the right nutrients, something happened and it stopped the fermentation. If you're fermenting Zinfandel, it would be red. It would not be a blush wine. It just wouldn't. Mm-hmm. It is harder to make white Zinfandel than it is to make Chateau Petrus or Harland or Screaming Eagle. It is. From a technical standpoint, it's way more difficult. So to say that it was a mistake or an accident that happened, what you don't know is, and we're talking about the business of vineyards, but we're going to go to wine production in a second. In 1972, there was a study commissioned for California. What's the future of wine? How do we understand, given the incredibly long lead time of planting vineyards, getting fruit, making wine, aging it, getting it to market, which could, in the best of circumstances, might be a year, but could span several years or even 10 years from the ground up, right? So the study came back and said by 1980, the US will be a nation of red wine drinkers. Well, that happened, sort of, but like way later than they had predicted. Zinfandel, red Zinfandel grapes had been become the number one planted grape in the US, and there was no market for it yet. So we weren't a nation of red wine drinkers, and the grapes were free. The grapes were free.
Wow.
And so Trinchero went, oh shit, we got some free grapes. Why don't we try this? What people have an aversion to rosé back then, and many people still do. It's got a stigma. If you're drinking it, we stigmatize the drinkers by what they drink. So we'll make it just a teeny tiny bit rosé. We'll call it white because it's not white. And then we'll separate it because it's a varietal wine, which appears to be how people want to respond, to the label and what they're buying. and we'll see what happens. They made about 25,000 cases. It exploded. Who was the #1 producer of White Zinfandel in California?
Well, it was Sutter Home, but I believe that Behringer has bypassed that and now is the #1.
They did that a long time ago, and they only make one size.
Is that
and
the
it
1.5?
sells for typically $1 more per bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And what you need to know is how much money, how logistically more pure it is to make 750 ml instead of 187s and half bottles and 750s and 1.5 liters and whatever. Just to change the Behringer line, to change the bottle size for White Zinfandel, costs probably in the range of $150,000 to $200,000 just to make the machinery change.
So what's the package size? It's the 750 or the 1.5 that they produce?
750.
It's the 750. Okay.
On a few occasions, they've done 1.5s, but you know, so again, and so Behringer became the #1 back in probably mid-90s.
Okay.
A long time ago. And their cost of production is way less, and they sell it for more. So what's their cost of goods? How much do they save? Not only just in the machinery change, but then managing different size inventories, making the sale into distributors of all the different sizes, managing those from the distribution and keeping inventories balanced, managing that in the stores, selling in all the different sizes instead of, we got one size, would you put it in? Sure, let's do that. Let's make a big display. Let's go.
Why are their grapes cheaper? You said that their
cost of goods are cheaper because they make more.
Okay.
And because they have less inventory issues, storage fees are less, you know, all the way down the line, there are cost savings.
Supply chain. So a lot of this is supply chain issue.
What's that?
A lot of it's supply chain.
A lot of it's supply. And a lot of it's just simply, let's say that you're ordering glass for your wine. You're ordering the glass. Oh my gosh, okay, well, we've got to order for the 187s. We've got to have the little carriers for it. We need the 750s. We need that glass. Now so even there, it's a significant amount of money if you've only got one size, just managing the glass, placing the orders, trying to balance out and divide up the allocation. Then you run out of one size and you've got demand for it. So and you've got inventories of the other, what do you do? And you're pissing off your customers because you ran out. Yeah, but you can't do anything about it till next year, because unless you're holding inventory in bulk under refrigeration, now you've got that expense. You've got that space, you've got that equipment, you've got that heat, power, and electricity.
Right.
Who ever thought something like White Zinfandel could be so complicated, right? Wow. So that's the point of what we're going to achieve over the 8 weeks of this course. All right, really, really drilling down into these kind of distinctions. Okay. All right, so we're going to talk about wine production, and there's going to be a couple things. Let me see what. Hang on, let me close this. Your project that's due in a week. And I'm not a stickler. If you like to get your work done and done on time, a week from today, you'll submit your first wine biz sim project, a $25 red blend. But as you can see, it's already built for you. All right. So
hey, Tim.
Yeah.
Real quick. I mean, so you open that up. Is the idea just play with it and keep it below $25?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're doing it right already, Vito. If you turn it in, you get credit. If you don't turn it in, you don't get credit. If you turn it in, at least it means you went into the Wine Biz Sim and opened up the program.
Right.
But you should go in. And did you play with some of the barrel aging and some of those things in that, Vito, or grapes?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, what struck me was without even trying, you just touch one or two things, you're immediately upside down.
Yeah.
And the cost goes through the roof of the wine. So you're way past $25 and you're making negative profit. I was like, wow. And I literally had to reset everything to get it back. I'm like, it's, there's a lot of things that can, the point of the story is there's 100 things that can go wrong and 2 things that can go right, right? It's very easy to screw this up.
Yes. And that's why so many wineries fail.
Yeah.
Here's another way that wineries fail. You start your winery in an opportunity, a time of opportunity, all right? So in the world of supply and demand that we'll talk about a bit, but let's say supply is down, demand is up, and you're at the beginning of a cycle, grapes are cheap, and you decide, wow, I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity. I can make this wine for this price and whatever. And then the next year, things have switched. Your grape prices have gone through the roof. Demand has gone down. You're stuck with inventory and wondering now, what the hell am I going to do? Okay.
So this begs a question. You had a chart. I was watching the video last night because we were catching up, and I didn't see it anywhere, but you showed it. And it had the 4 different distinct categories of there was the growing of the grapes, there's the making of the wine, there's the marketing, there's the selling. It had sub-steps in each one. It all pointed to wine on the left.
Okay.
So if you have these sort of big chunky categories, the agricultural part, the production, is any one of those better to start with? Like if you wanted to get in the wine business, I mean, if you're a Beringer, right, you're a state-owned, you're doing the whole stack. You got everything from top to bottom. But let's say you're a little guy like me and you want to get in and you have an opportunity. I could start out by growing. I could start out by buying a place that just makes wine for everybody else. You could get into the marketing side. Do you have any sort of thoughts around which ones are a little more foolproof?
So that fits into the world of unanswerable questions that begs clarification and speculation.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, we're going to get a little bit ahead of the course, but this course is really flexible and it's driven by you guys and what you want to know. Vito, can I ask you why you took the course?
So my wife and I are interested at 50 in making a big career change. We love food and wine. We want to get into it. And we come from families that have been in business, but we don't know anything about the wine business. So we're smart enough to know that if you just jump in, you're probably going to fail. So we're looking at some of these options. So we have actually gone around and looked around it. So this question, by the way, and I'll stop after this. We were just down in Texas, and there is a place for sale that is a full-blown winery, but really what they do is they make wine. He's got way overproduction. He's selling this place as a winery, but really he's got enough. He could make wine for 20 wineries.
So we will need to keep it short because we're almost halfway through this. So
I'll let you go.
You're considering maybe purchasing a winery, getting into the wine business, and so forth.
So this will be our one-on-one. I'll call you with the one-on-one.
Right, exactly what I was going to say. And there might be parts that I'll ask you to share with the class also, discussion forum. So to answer your question, where does it all begin? There are grape growers that are deciding, well, I want to vertically integrate. Maybe somebody in the family or whatever goes to viticultural school, but then they take enology and they love winemaking. They come back and let's make our own. We've been growing grapes. So it could start with you've got the land. It could start with got a really good friend up in Washington, Justin Wiley. He grew up. They had orchards. They had strawberries. They had all this stuff. And he said, you know what? There's a real strong return on investment. Let's convert our farm over to grapes. And they did. And then he said, hey, you know what? I've been playing with these grapes. I love to make wine. So he started making wine. And then oh shit, now we got to learn how to sell wine, right? Et cetera, et cetera. So it can start bottom up.
Right.
It could start top down. It could be, you know, I've got some friends at a distributor, or I know the people at Aldi, or, you know, I've got connections here. I'm going to start and ask what their needs are, and I'm going to do it top down. It could be, I've just got this spectacular idea for a wine, and I want to make it because I've got a passion for it, whether it's Pinot Noir, whether it's Sangria, whether it's, you know, whatever it is. And you do it because you've got a vision of a product, and you want to make your mission making that product, right? It could be that you see a sales opportunity. It could be that, you know, wherever. So what we're going to do is, and this is again what I want you to start thinking while you're doing your homework and looking at bottles and drinking and reading articles and this kind of stuff. What were they thinking? And how did this get started? And remember, you're going to mostly be reading marketing materials. They're going to tell you a story. If I see one more thing to sell your wine, you really need to tell a good story. If I see another article about that, I'm going to puke. It's so much more than just having your good story. And the likelihood is that your story, their wines were created to celebrate the winery's rich heritage and the blah, blah place, the winemaking and the viticulture, lively blend of rose petals and cherry flavor, you know.
Right.
You know, and go in and see a category and read everybody's back label, and you tell me if you see something that pops out. And there are things that pop out. But is that what people want? Is that what they want to hear? Okay. So anyways, we'll get deeper and deeper into this, and later on when we start working on the business plan, Vito, we'll give you the business plan template to start putting everything together. We'll give you the financials so that you can run those scenarios, and the knowledge that, wow, you know, we really wanted to do this with the cost of the grapes or this oak aging or this process, but holy crap, what did we get into? And it's really good to find that out now. So, and the chart, did you look at the, each time I send out the notice that the class recording is posted, I include a PDF of the slides, and you might find that slide that you're looking for in there.
Okay.
And I think we're going to come across it again in a second. It's not that one, but it's the linear one.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Oh, you didn't? Okay. Well, if you find it at a point in the video or something, let me know. And I'll see if I can pull it back up. All right, so we're going to play a game called Who Cares? And Who Cares is not a throwaway kind of, well, who cares? But it's a legitimate and incredibly important marketing question and production question and everything else. So these wines were created to celebrate the rich heritage, the innovative winemaking, the lively blend. Anybody care?
No.
Not really. It goes with rich pork dishes with cherry sauce and tarragon. Anybody care? Nobody cares. What do consumers really care about with wine and food pairing? As a whole, do consumers really care about wine and food pairing? No.
Not really. I think they care about how much does it cost and how good does it taste.
How good does it taste, and am I going to enjoy it? And will I look smart in front of my friends, or do I have to drink it in the closet? all right, which is what we do to white Zen drinkers and millions and millions of consumers. We make them embarrassed about the wines they drink. And if we can't embarrass them about that, we'll embarrass them because they don't know what the best wine is with the best food. And for the most part, really, really top experts in wine rarely care about what goes with the food. When you're out selling your wine, you're selling your wine at a dinner, you're serving it with whatever is being served with your client because you're selling your wine. You're not going to not serve it because it does, you know, etc. So who cares in terms of the cost of goods? Well, consumer doesn't care what your cost of goods is. They care about the goods themselves, right? Enthusiasts think they know something about the cost of goods, but rarely do they. Who really cares about the cost of goods are the producer, obviously. That's your bread and butter. The gap between what it costs to make it and what you sell it for is your life. That's your income. Importers and exporters care about the cost of goods, but it's going to be expressed as not actually the cost to make it, but the cost they're purchasing it for, right? And so on with the distributor, with the retailer, restaurateur, et cetera, et cetera. So the cost of goods, the importance of knowing this. Also, when I was a retailer, I was in wine retail 6 of the most fun, exciting years of my life. And I was in the rare wine business, and I was doing direct imports from Bordeaux. We were buying wines from all over the world that had never been sold in the Atlanta market, Vega Sicilia from Spain, and all this crazy stuff. I was beginning to learn about cost of goods, and I became a much better negotiator. If somebody says, oh, the cost of goods is this and that, I say, well, you know what? With this origin of the wine and with this and stuff, you're just too expensive. Now, if I knew that, then I was a better business person. I could buy it for less. Didn't mean I had to sell it for less. That would mean I could just make more margin. Or I could sell it for less. Then I would attract more customers. Wow, they're selling it really cheaply over here, okay? So the importance of knowing the cost of goods is what I want you to get out of this section of the course is not that you know all the exact costs, but you've done like Vito's done. You've gone in and played with it and said, oh, wow. And by the way, maybe don't do it yet. Just work on your project now. But we're going to, you'll have access to this program for a year. See if you can produce a $5 red blend. How many cases would you have to produce to get the costs down enough? What would your packaging cost? The cost of bottles, corks, capsules or screw caps, the glass, all of that stuff can cost $2 a bottle, right?
What's a capsule? Sorry for stupid question.
Capsule's the thing that goes over that protects the cork.
Got it. Thanks.
And by the way, thank you again, because anybody who's got little questions like that, if there's an acronym or if there's a lingo or whatever, ask. Don't hide out in this class. Go, what is that? Thank you. So anyways, so how do you make $2 chuck or $2.50 chuck, I think it is now, or $3 chuck? How do you make that and make a profit? Because they are making a profit. The $5 Liddell wine or Aldi wine they're making a profit. Okay. So what goes into the cost of goods, and you've maybe seen these little things. This is absolutely freaking ridiculous. $2 for a cork. I'm sorry, they don't. $1 for a label, not for Harlan. It's actually more than $1, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what we see are these scattershot generalizations that really don't give you an understanding of what truly goes into the bottle, okay? While we're doing this, also remember, we're constantly thinking, what's the marketing impact? what's the wine quality impact? What's the financial impact, and so forth, all right? So the big picture is what goes into the final cost has to do with the production, how it gets to a point of sale, so what's its route to market, and then what are the practices and the markups and the costs associated with the point of sale, whether it's on the internet, whether it's a retail store, whether it's a restaurant, and so forth, okay? So playing with the wine biz sim, this is what you should do with your $25 Cabernet. What would happen if you increase the production from 3,000 to 10,000 cases? Okay, and to find out, it's fun and simple. All you do is you go into your cost of goods calculator. Don't forget to save your work, all right? If you any questions, just let me know. And so I can go in and I can say, you know what? I want to see what happens if I move this to 10,000 cases. All right. Now all of a sudden I've got a huge increase in my gross margin that I can reallocate to different areas. Maybe I can reduce my packaging costs, all right? Because I'm buying 10,000 cases of bottles, I'm buying 120,000 corks and capsules or screw caps and whatever. So maybe now if I could go in and say, okay, you know what, I'm buying in a much bigger volume. What if I could take this down to $1.25, 1.25, enter. And then watch my gross margin, woohoo. I get to see how much I make by making that decision. Maybe I want to look in production and we're squeezing 60 cases per ton out of our wine. This is what's called a stepper, and watch the gross margin. We're at 393. If we get one more case per ton, we just made $7,000. Ooh, another 8,000, so we're 15,000 ahead. Then you ask yourself the question, wow, what kind of technology would I need? What kind of press? What would I be sacrificing for quality, et cetera, et cetera? That makes sense?
Hey, Tim, if you go to the cost breakdown, S7.
Yes.
One of the things that struck me was that the percent of total packaging is 40%. You see it there? Yep. That's it's 40% of the cost, and it seemed to be. I'm not sure why. Maybe that's a topic for another day.
Is $36. Is that correct?
Yeah, but it's just that percentage. It's like packaging is 40%. It's almost half the cost of goods is the packaging. Good Lord.
It can be. I haven't checked the math on it, but as far as I know it, so if our total cost of finished goods is $92, then $36 should be 40%, correct?
Right.
And if I'm over here under my packaging, let's just make sure the transfer is not correct. And don't forget, we've got some storage and treatments and whatever, so yeah.
Is it that cola cost? $3.50?
No, but 350 is divided by the number of cases. That's a one-time. If it's over on the right, it's a one-time fee that'll be then divided. So it's actually only 4 cents.
Okay, so there's that $33 right there. It's all those. Okay.
Yeah, and so let's say that we've been paying for one bottling line, and now all of a sudden we've got 10,000 cases. We've done some shopping around, and we can get our bottling done for $2. Okay. So remember, it's not just the packaging. You've got these additional costs in here.
Right.
But if I put and again, these are the questions. If I put $2 in there, we just, made a nice chunk of money and then it should affect that it lowered our packaging cost by 1%.
Yeah.
Okay. And notice on the barrel and aging also, when we go into the barrel costs, everybody's heard of oak chips and oak alternatives for wine. Okay. What if we could take the barrels out of play? What if technology and science were such that you could add a liquid additive?
Ooh.
Ooh, nobody would do that, would they?
They probably do, but you wouldn't want that known, right? I mean, that would be a marketing disaster.
What if you had oak chips?
I see where you're going.
Used modern micro-oxidation and went to every oak. They're called oak adjuncts, all right, versus oak barrels. And what if you found that you could go in and say, you know what? And when we do this with a $20 Chardonnay, and you've got 6 months of oak aging, for an example, and whatever, you will find out immediately why everybody in production is pushing unoaked Chardonnay, because it's a cash cow. Go see if you can find the most expensive unoaked Chardonnay in the market. And I want you to look at that with dollar signs flashing.
So you're saying since it's unoaked, they're able to produce it quicker and get rid of the oak cost, so it really enhances their bottom line.
Yo, boy.
Okay.
So here we're making $423,000. And then the question becomes, where do you reallocate things? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out of play and reduce it to 0. All right. This is how, so these are all just different parameters that you have to consider in like evaporative loss and all these other things. Aging an oak barrel is taught at such a simplistic level that people really don't have any clue when they walk or respect for that barrel cellar that you should have. It's so different from the we just made $50,000-$60,000 here, gang. Now, what could we do with that $50,000 or $60,000? And then don't forget, we're going to have to then go into our production, into the cellar and storage, and we're going to have to put in, let's say, $600 here. Let's say it's $6,000. We're still, way ahead of the game. We're $50,000 or more ahead, $55,000 ahead. And what could you do with that money?
Buy more grapes to make more wine.
You can make more money. You could allocate it in a number of different ways. You could spend, now you got $50,000 that you could spend for distributor sales incentives, that you could use for wine club sign-up incentives. You're making more money. What are you going to do with the money? You could just pocket it all and just laugh your way to the bank. Or maybe, don't tell anybody. By the way, you're going to find out I'm pretty cynical. What we're going to do is we're going to throw this puppy in a barrel for a month. And then we're going to take pictures of the barrel cellar. We're going to say aged in oak barrels. Can we do that?
Yep.
And we're really going to give it the oak character with state-of-the-art oak adjuncts that you cannot tell the difference. And we're going to, all right, great. Oh, great. We still got 50 grand. Oh, this is how you use this program. I don't care what your number, I want you to screw this up. I want you to mess it up. You can actually save your project and clone it if you want to make 2 for comparison. That'll come a little bit later. If you get tired of playing with this, make a $25 Chardonnay or a $50 Chardonnay or a $15 Tempranillo or an Albarino or something like that. When you look at the grape costs, say, wow, okay, this is Cabernet, but I'm going to blend this. What if I could find some Merlot, some Petit Verdot in the spot market, high enough quality to blend with this, but a lot cheaper? And where you're going to find these red blends, this red blend, all I know is that it has rose petal aromas and cherry flavor, followed by smooth tannins that lead to a vibrant finish. Doesn't tell me shit about what's in this bottle of wine. Because
there's
they don't.
Grapes in there. I'm pretty sure there's grapes in there, Tim.
What's that?
I'm pretty sure there's grapes in there.
There might be. Do there have to be?
No.
In Portugal, for vintage port wines, it's a legal requirement that you cannot have elderberry bushes within 100 meters of your vineyard.
Oh, wow. Because
elderberries used to be used for coloring and in lesser vintage ports. You know, what are we teaching in these wine classes? Anyways, I think this is much more fun. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I got a friend who got stuck with some Merlot. I'm going to talk about how I carefully blended this, right? And what I did is I carefully blended 20% Merlot into this. And that Merlot, let's say, cost me $1,200. All right. Oh, I don't have 100% yet. Maybe that Merlot wasn't the best. Maybe I need a little bit more color. Maybe I found some Petite Syrah even cheaper that was really kick butt Petite Syrah. We don't have Petite Syrah. Who designed this program? So I can actually add it down here. I could say Petite Syrah. I can put that in at 5%, and I got it for $800 a ton. Can you get quality fruit for $800 a ton? Sometimes you can get free fruit, right? We already talked about that. Let's go see my gross margin. Oops. Oh, yay, look at that. Just by playing with the oak aging and looking at our fruit source, we're making $80,000 more for this product. If it's less than 5%, do I have to say that I added Petite Syrah? You figure that out. And talk about it on the discussion forum, okay? So this is how you use this program. There's a tutorial for it, so if you're confused about this, right here's a click to a video tutorial. You click on it, it'll open in a separate window. All right. Oh, look, it's me. And welcome to the Oregon Wine Board's Cost of Goods and Gross Margin. Okay. And have fun with it. Put your name in it. Name your project. Save it and bookmark it, or save it in your favorites. And then in a week or so, whatever form it is, just send it to me. I don't care what it looks like. And the way you submit your project, by the way, it's good to know. When you save this, it says save as PDF. And when you save it as a PDF, it'll download to your computer and then email it to me. Don't do this for a week. I'll go over this later, but this is how you do it, okay? All right, so let me go back to our presentation. So this is what I want you to play. Where can you reduce costs? Where can you increase prices? We'll get to down the road. At what point, I was reading a really, really horribly written article by a well-known writer, and they were talking about bulk wine is just garbage, it's cheap wine, and so on. That is so stupid. There are incredible wines available in the bulk wine market. There are first growth Bordeaux's in France available on the bulk wine market. It's not sold as that, you can't use it as that, but it's out there. where in this whole thing do you lose control? And in this article, they talked about how the winery gets their profit from the distributor, as if they have any control over it. So what the writer didn't know is once you've got your finished packaged goods, you establish your FOB price for the wine, what it's going to sell for. And when the distributor buys it, they own it. They'll keep billing you for stuff. So you're not done paying necessarily, but you don't own the goods anymore. They mark it up, they sell it, that's their profit. And then when they sell it to the restaurant or the retail store or whatever, and then it's their goods and they do it. And this writer didn't even know that, okay? And we talked about the unoaked Chardonnay demo, and we did it with the red wine. And that's another thing that you can look at. So another place you have control over the whole thing is, okay, what if we increased our selling price of the wine? Because we've got it set at $133 a case. And with the auto calculator, that puts us roughly at a $25 price point. If we were able to justify, if we could market it better, if we could take that $80,000 and say, okay, we're going to do a price increase and we're going to move this up to $150, all right, that's going to move us up to $27.79, so roughly at, $26.99, $27.99 in the market. And what happened to our gross margin? Holy schmoly, look at that.
What was it before?
We were at about, what was it, 525? And if you ever want to see, you go back to what it was, 133, or just hit Control Z. So we're at 508. If we could figure out how to get this puppy up there to 150, we're at 508, we're making $175,000 more. Make sense? Yeah. Yeah, and this is not well known, even by people who run wineries. Honestly, they have no clue. They're like on the back of a napkin and just trying to figure it out. Okay? All right. So again, always think all the way down the line. Where'd they get the grapes? How much did they pay? Did they grow their own grapes? One of the wonderful delusions is, oh, if I grow my own grape, they'll be cheaper. No, they won't. You've got to allocate so much in capital expenses. You've got to buy the real estate, or if you already own it, and all of a sudden you're in a whole different world of agriculture, and you're competing with companies that are management companies or large growers that have the ability to use all this equipment year round. They don't have to rent stuff usually and whatever. So, but anyways, all the way through the chain, think of the implication that a decision like lowering your bottling costs might make, and either be able to sell your goods less expensive, make more money so you can reallocate it to sales and marketing, pay distributor salespeople, create new point of sale materials so that you can come in with a beautifully designed display that could cost $100,000 to design and produce, but when you show it to the stores, they say, awesome, we'll put that at this big end cap here. And that's what I also want you to look at. It's the signage and the displays, who's paying for what and what did it cost. All right, then what we're going to start to talk about in a week from today, Monday's going to be for Q&A and reviewing all of this kind of where we are in the course. We're going to look at what kind of production options are there from additional or traditional estates. You own the vineyard, you own the winery, you own the equipment, you make the wine. Or you've got the winery, but you're buying grapes. or you've got a whole bunch of people who own the winery, have their own separate licenses and share the equipment, or that you just say, screw it, I want to contract with somebody to make the wine, custom crush, or the heck with that, I'm just going to buy bulk wine, and I'm not even going to, I'll blend it, I'll have it made. And then there's something called shiners, which is the fastest way to market, which is wines that are already made and bottled by a producer, and you just buy them and slap your label on it. Okay, so we'll be getting to that. And we've got traditional estate, we've got production and storage facilities. So also start to think in terms of legal permitting and licensing. All right. And when you look on the back of a bottle of wine, you're going to see vinted and cellared by, or produced and bottled by, or different things. Start paying attention, because you can then start to learn, do they even have a winery, or did somebody else do this for them? And there are some little finesse things in there that we'll talk about. But basically, a winery is a bonded wine premises that they can produce, blend, cellar, store, bottle, pack, and all before taxes are paid. All right. And then it includes a bonded winery, which is for the production, or a bonded wine cellars, which is usually a storage facility, not always, but so forth. There's so many success stories in winery-only new vineyards. Maomi doesn't own a vine, and they sold years ago for $315 million. Now the #1 selling Pinot Noir in the U.S. And they've got they're unencumbered by the cost and the distraction of managing their own fruit, and they've got incredible buying power, so they can negotiate for their great prices.
I had no idea.
No, I know. Nobody does, because we're all so focused on the BS of wine. This is the business. All right. So we'll talk. I'm going to send this to you guys. You can read it. An alternating proprietorship is a very interesting thing. It's kind of like a co-op, and you become a partner in the winery, and you have your own license. There are logistics and all sorts of issues about this model. Like, hey, I need the press right now. No, I'm pressing my wine. Okay, well, are you on the schedule? And you can have 10 or 15 licensed individuals or companies all sharing the same equipment. And when it works, it's an amazing collaborative rock and roll kind of atmosphere. When it doesn't work, it's like a family with 15 kids, grandparents living in the house. Most of the kids are adults and haven't left the house, and everybody's alcoholic and dysfunctional. So that's kind of the extremes, and I'm actually serious about that analogy. Okay. Custom crush is when you're contracting for the fruit. Now there's something that's kind of being challenged. What was happening is, if you're custom crush, let's say that I contract with this winery to make my wine for me, that production model. And when you see those contracts, it's very similar to the wine biz sim. They'll give you a menu of what you want to do, what kind of barrel this, then they give you the costs, all right? When the wine is made, you take possession of the wine, but you are not the producer. You actually have to have a wholesale distributor's license, and you are not the winemaker. You are not the winery. The custom crush facility has all that licensing and all that kind of stuff. All right. This little gray area is, oh, what if I formed an LLC with the Custom Crush Winery, and we produced under our license with our partner. So now we're kind of on paper an alternating proprietorship, and you can actually be the winemaker, or I'm sorry, the wine producer of record. but that's being challenged by the Tax Tobacco Bureau because they're seeing it as a workaround.
Hey, Tim.
Yeah.
Quick question on this. What happens if, in this arrangement, I come to you with the grapes, you're the winemaker, right? It's custom crush, but I don't like what you produce.
That's called contracts. That's called all sorts of, that's called insurance.
Okay.
And actually, you come to me with the grapes, I've got to buy the grapes, you cannot. So the custom crush facility has to purchase and track and account for the grapes. Now, you could say, I've got the grapes, I'm going to sell them to you at this price, and you can make that a really low price. Make it $1 or whatever, and then they've got their duties and responsibilities, and then you've got a contract. You can actually find the contracts online.
Okay.
And you can see what legal stipulations and protections, how do you mitigate the risk, what happens, you know, if something goes haywire, who arbitrates it, you know, who's the moderator for that kind of a problem. Bulk wines. People don't know bulk wines. You're going to have an opportunity to make your own bulk wine blend. And we'll give you everything you need. It's really fun. Have any of you done a wine blending before? You add this and a little bit of this, and they do it at all the wineries. You've never done a wine blending where, oh, I want to add a lot of this, but it costs $35 a gallon. And I don't really like this, but it's $5 a gallon. It's a new decision on what you're doing. And in bulk wine also, when we use the term bulk wine, we're going to talk about material. It might be material that you have in your own winery that you actually own. And this costs you $5 a gallon for the grapes and to make it, and this costs you $35. What are you going to do with it? That's how Conundrum was invented. Anybody know Conundrum from Camus?
Yeah.
We'll look at it in the store, and I'll tell that story a little bit later when we talk about how to make millions of dollars in the wine industry. And then shiners are the wine's made, it's in the bottle, it's got the capsule, you buy it, put your label on, and you're in the wine biz. We'll go into all these in a little bit more detail. Okay, so I'm going to, I'll take a couple quick questions, but very, very useful to go to www.ttb.gov. You can just select the wine category. You can read about regulations, limitations. They've got, it's a wealth of information. It's really kind of cool. Go into the stores, do what you did, Vito, but share it with the class and ask the question, how the hell do they make this and sell it for $5? Are they losing money? Or can you actually do that? And if you really want to be impressed by a $5 bottle of wine, try to make it in the wine biz zone. You'll have a whole new perspective on the industry. Okay? All right, any final questions? All right, if you're confused, if this is way over your head, if you're wondering what the heck did I get myself into, call me. If this isn't enough and you want more in whatever, don't forget we got 8 weeks of this. Call me. To call me, send me an email, let me know some times that worked for you, and then we'll do this. And understand, week after next, I'm going to be in China for a week. So we're going to have a workaround. I'll probably post some classes from the previous course, okay? But we'll pick everything right back up, and I'll be able to answer emails. But the Great Firewall of China is harder and harder to break through. I've had every workaround you can imagine, but they don't let you use Facebook. They don't let you use Google. They don't let you use YouTube, so I can't upload any videos, and it'll be a problem. But there we go. All right. Thank you, guys.
See ya.
Talk to you all soon. Have fun.
Bye.